Under the ominous skies of the arid Mesa Desert, there were moments when the harsh elements seemed determined to test the depths of a man's soul. On one particularly stormy evening, Jace Callahan found himself thrust into an ordeal far beyond the ordinary hardships of his isolated existence. As he maneuvered his time-worn pickup truck along a rugged country road, he silently berated his decision to venture out so late to inspect the aging perimeter fences of his sprawling homestead. The wind, fierce and unyielding, roared over the barren expanse of Red Mesa Valley like a wounded beast, lashing out with stinging grains of sand that reduced visibility to mere yards and obscured the familiar landscape in a shroud of swirling dust. In the midst of nature's relentless fury, Jace's eyes caught a fleeting glimpse of something extraordinary. A spectral figure, clad in flowing white, staggering aimlessly through the tempest. At first, he wondered if the desert's notorious mirages were playing tricks on his eyes. After all, the interplay of the fading sun and swirling dust was known to create illusions that danced on the horizon. Yet, as his headlights sliced through the thick ochre haze, the vision solidified into something undeniably real. A woman draped in a ruined wedding gown, her bare feet leaving deep crimson imprints in the ever-shifting sands. With a low, bitter curse, Jace brought his truck to an abrupt stop, his heart pounding with both alarm and reluctant curiosity. The apparition moved with a haunting grace that belied her battered appearance. Her once immaculate gown, now in tatters from the merciless storm, billowed in the wind like a tattered flag waving in surrender. Delicate strands of designer lace, once carefully arranged upon her shoulders, now hung in forlorn strips, and the intricate beading that had once signified a life of opulence was now hopelessly intermingled with the rough desert grit. Her dark hair, entangled with a few stray crystal pins that struggled to hold it in place, whipped wildly around her face, framing eyes that shimmered with the sorrow of forgotten dreams and unspoken terror. 15 long years spent toiling on the ranch had taught Jace that disturbances in the desert rarely came without a price that would often follow a man back to his doorstep. Yet something about the woman's desperate, faltering gait, a silent, pleading vulnerability, awakened in him memories he thought had long been buried beneath layers of rugged indifference. When she suddenly collapsed in the midst of the howling storm, his decision was made for him without hesitation. Exiting the truck, Jace was immediately assailed by the abrasive wind, each grain of sand pricking his skin like tiny needles. He hurried to her side, noticing the fresh bruises that marred her delicate arms, a shallow cut just above her brow, and the evident trauma inflicted upon her feet by the relentless, unforgiving desert floor. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he called softly, his voice gentle as he placed a cautious hand on her shoulder in a bid to reassure her. Slowly, as if emerging from a deep, troubled sleep, her eyes fluttered open to reveal storm-gray irises that held the weight of untold sorrow and fear. In a barely audible, tremulous whisper, she pleaded, "Please, don't let them find me." Her words barely had time to escape her lips before her eyes rolled back and her consciousness slipped away like water through parched desert fingers. Just then, a sudden movement at the edge of his vision seized Jace's attention. A sleek, black SUV, idling ominously along the lonely highway. Its headlights, piercing the dissipating storm with a predatory glare, signaled that someone was hunting, their intent as unmistakable as it was menacing. In one fluid motion, driven by instinct and resolve, Jace scooped the fragile, unconscious bride into his arms. He was surprised by how little she weighed, her head drooping softly against his chest as he carried her back to the relative safety of his truck. Despite the chill of the stormy evening, her skin radiated an alarming fever, a silent warning of a deeper, unseen affliction. As he gently laid her in the passenger seat, his eyes caught a glimmer from her wrist. A diamond bracelet that caught the scarce light and hinted at a value that far exceeded the modest wealth of his homestead. This was no ordinary case of a runaway bride. It was the kind of enigma that would soon make national headlines. A mysterious disappearance, wrapped in scandal and intrigue, destined to raise more questions than answers. As the black SUV's headlights edged ever closer, Jace knew that the threat trailing her would not be easily shaken off. Without a moment's delay, he accelerated the truck and switched off his lights, taking a secluded back trail that led to his isolated ranch. The raging storm would cover their tracks, but deep within him, a gnawing sense of foreboding confirmed that this was only the beginning of a much larger ordeal. In the uneasy silence that followed, Jace found himself pondering the crossroads of fate. How often does life force us to choose between a safe, uneventful path and one that demands we step into another storm of despair? What would any of us do if faced with such a desperate plea in the midst of nature's fury? These questions resonated with him as he recalled the spectral bride's plight, a woman whose cry for help was both a burden and a call to arms for his long-dormant sense of duty. And so, as the early hints of dawn began to soften the darkness over Red Mesa Valley, he resolved to stand by her side no matter the cost. The night's tumult slowly gave way to the gentle light of dawn, and the first rays of the sun bathed Jace's modest ranch in hues of amber and gold. He had spent a sleepless night in his battered leather armchair, vigilantly watching over the mysterious woman, waiting for any sign of revival. Now, as the storm's fury receded and its debris lay scattered like forgotten memories, the unanswered questions it had carried with it still whispered in the still morning air. There she lay on his well-worn couch, her ruined wedding dress a stark and haunting contrast against the rustic surroundings, a vivid symbol of beauty turned to sorrow. Despite the chaos of the previous night, Jace had managed to tend to her injuries with the limited supplies at hand. He carefully cleaned the cuts that marred her delicate skin, wrapped her battered feet in gauze, and applied a cool cloth to her fevered brow. Yet every time he stole a glance at her, he couldn't help but see the traces of a world far removed from this desolate place. The luxurious designer gown, her perfectly manicured hands, and most strikingly, the diamond bracelet that gleamed in the soft morning light. With measured care, he removed the bracelet and examined its inscription. "To Elena, forever yours." The simple engraving, lacking even a surname or a date, only deepened the mystery surrounding her identity. In the background, the television droned on with the morning news, its low hum underscored by urgent reports of scandal emanating from the glittering metropolis of Las Venturas. Breaking news spoke of chaos at the illustrious Vesper Resort, where the high-profile wedding of casino magnate Damien Vesper had ended in disaster when the bride mysteriously vanished mere moments before the ceremony. The very name Vesper sent a shiver down Jace's spine, for it was a name that resonated throughout these parts. Just then, a soft moan from the couch pulled his attention back to the mysterious guest. Elena, as he presumed her to be named, began to stir. Her face, once masked in unconsciousness, now contorted in distress before her eyes fully opened. "Easy now," Jace murmured gently, careful not to startle her further. "You're safe." But even as she bolted upright, clutching her head in agony, confusion reigned in her voice as she demanded, Where am I?" Her words trembled in the quiet of the morning, echoing with both fear and disbelief. "You're at my ranch," he replied calmly, his eyes flitting between the humble furnishings of his home and the vast open fields where his horses grazed in the distance. "I found you wandering during last night's storm." Her voice broke as she struggled to comprehend her situation. I can't remember," she stammered, her tone laced with anguish and disbelief. Jace's steady gaze met hers as he softly inquired, "Why are you wearing a wedding dress?" His question was gentle, born of genuine concern, as he observed her wincing while pressing her fingers against her temples. Fragmented images began to surface in her troubled mind. A flash of a ceremony, a cascade of blinding lights, and disjointed memories that shattered like fragments of a broken mirror. "It's all just pieces, fragments," she whispered, "but something deep inside tells me that everything is terribly wrong." Reaching out with a tentative smile, Jace held up the sparkling bracelet. "Your name is Elena," he offered with quiet reassurance, "as this inscription confirms." For a brief moment, recognition lit her storm-gray eyes, a flicker of hope mixed with sorrow, before she murmured, "Yes, that feels right. But I can't remember my last name." At that moment, the television abruptly captured her attention by displaying a polished, society-style portrait of a woman who looked strikingly like her. The headline, bold and unyielding, screamed, "Winters vanishes on wedding day." Shock and dismay washed over her face as she stammered, That's me, but I don't..." In a sudden burst of movement, she attempted to rise, her fragile, bandaged feet betraying her as she staggered toward the door. Quick as a flash, Jace caught her before she could fall, his concern deepening with every heartbeat. In that charged moment, when Elena's soft hand briefly rested against his weathered one, there was an unspoken collision of two disparate worlds, a melding of vulnerability and hardened resolve. Jace, ever the practical man, quickly stepped back, his voice firm yet kind. "You should rest," he said, "and let's figure out what is truly happening here. You're safe for now." But Elena's eyes, dark and stormy, flashed with an inner strength as she insisted, "No, I must leave. I'm putting you in danger just by being here." Her defiance, however, was tempered by the reality of her condition. As she attempted another uncertain step toward the door, her frail state became painfully obvious. "You have no shoes, no money, and it's clear you're suffering from a concussion," Jace observed plainly. "The nearest town is at least 20 miles away through open desert, and in your condition, you wouldn't even make 5 miles. Despite her desperate promises of repayment and assurances that she only wished to be reunited with someone, he resolutely replied, "No phone, no car. Not until we unravel the truth behind your predicament." Elena's storm-gray eyes met his in a silent exchange, a mix of fear, defiance, and resignation as she murmured, "You barely know me. How can you decide my fate?" Jace moved to the window and scanned the horizon, his gaze sharpening as he recognized the unmistakable threat, a sleek black SUV crawling slowly along the distant highway. "I know trouble when I see it," he murmured gravely, "and whatever force is pursuing you is not one to be trifled with." The vehicle's presence, ominous and relentless, underscored the gravity of their situation, leaving no doubt that their fates were now intertwined with forces far beyond the calm of the desert. As the early morning unfolded with a deceptive serenity, Jace and Elena found themselves drawn into a hesitant conversation, a cautious dance of shared memories and guarded revelations. Jace recounted his own life on the ranch, a life defined by solitude, hard labor, and an unyielding connection to the wild land. In return, Elena offered only fragmented recollections of a bygone era filled with glittering galas, sumptuous banquets, and the dazzling lights of high society. Names like Damien Vesper and Gregory Winters floated into the conversation, names that resonated with scandal and opulence in equal measure. For Elena, Damien Vesper was not merely a man. He was a symbol of a treacherous world of power and greed, a world that had led her down a path of unrelenting torment. As the day advanced, the ranch itself seemed to transform. The modest living space, once a sanctuary of quiet routine, became a crucible of emerging hope and quiet defiance. Every creak of the old wooden floor, every whisper of wind through the sparse vegetation, served as a reminder that life, no matter how fragmented, was worth fighting for. The diamond bracelet, now safely stowed away in a small wooden box, remained a tangible relic of a past life, a past marked by promises of eternal love and the cruel irony of shattered dreams. Yet even as a fragile calm settled over the homestead, the threat of the unknown remained ever present. The memory of the black SUV and its relentless pursuit lingered like a dark omen. Jace's protective instincts, honed over years of surviving the harsh desert, refused to be dulled by sentimentality. He vowed silently that no matter the cost, he would protect Elena from the looming dangers that stalked the barren wilderness, even if that meant confronting the very forces that had upended her once glamorous life. In the cooling light of late afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent behind distant rugged peaks, Jace's determination hardened into resolve. The desert had become more than just a backdrop to their unlikely meeting. It was now an active participant in their unfolding drama, a vast stage upon which the struggles of the past and present collided with unyielding force. With every breath and every heartbeat, the harsh landscape seemed to echo the eternal truth that even the most desolate places could harbor the seeds of renewal and redemption. As twilight descended upon this transformed haven, Jace and Elena braced themselves for the uncertain challenges that awaited beyond the safety of the ranch. The horizon was a murky canvas of deep purples and fiery oranges, mirroring the complexity of their intertwined destinies. Each step they took was laden with unspoken promises and the weight of past transgressions, yet also illuminated by the glimmer of newfound hope. In that fragile moment, amidst the interplay of light and shadow, they silently vowed to unearth every secret, to confront every peril, and to reclaim the lives that had been so cruelly torn apart. Their journey would be arduous and fraught with obstacles, yet it was a journey that neither could now turn away from. For in the heart of the desert, where every grain of sand carried a story, they discovered the truth, that even the harshest winds could forge bonds strong enough to weather any storm. With courage as their compass and determination as their shield, they stepped forward into the enveloping night, ready to face the unknown, bound together by destiny and the promise of a brighter future. In the oppressive heat of that desolate evening, as the neon glimmer of the casino faded into a distant memory, a fresh recollection surged through Elena's mind, a memory that bore the bitter taste of terror and betrayal. It began with the recollection of the moment when a stern-faced man, whose presence had been as chilling as the desert night, had driven by the casino. His name, once uttered in hushed tones around illicit corners, now merged with the echo of her darkest fears. In that instant, another memory unfurled, a memory laden with anguish and regret. "I remember it all so clearly," Elena whispered, her voice trembling as she recalled the scene. "It was my wedding night, or what was meant to be my wedding night." Her eyes glazed with unshed tears as she continued. "I saw them drag a man into Damien Vesper's private office. He pleaded desperately, begging for more time to settle his debts. I saw everything." Her confession was interrupted by a shudder that coursed through her entire being, as if the recollection itself threatened to shatter her fragile composure. Jace's face darkened at the mere mention of those words. His rugged features, honed by years of solitude and hardened by the unforgiving land of the arid Mesa Desert, betrayed a profound sorrow. "What exactly happened?" he asked, his voice low and steady, as if he were trying to force the details out of the recesses of his own painful past. "Damien? He did something unspeakable right there in his office." As if on cue, fresh tears welled in Elena's eyes. "I saw it all. When they were moving the body, I ran, I stole one of the wedding cars, and drove until my strength gave out." Her words spilled out in a rush, each syllable laden with the terror of that night. The gravity of her confession struck Jace with the force of a freight train. "You're not just a runaway bride," he murmured, his voice a mixture of resolve and remorse. "You're living proof, evidence of a nightmare that they'd prefer to keep buried." In that raw, heart-wrenching moment, he drew her close, holding her trembling form as her tears dampened the fabric of his worn shirt. Their bodies merged, a collision of softness and strength, fragility and fortitude. "I won't let them hurt you," he vowed, his whisper nearly lost beneath the howling wind outside. "I promise you that." Elena's storm-gray eyes, glistening with unshed sorrow and defiance, met his with equal parts gratitude and confusion. "But why, Jace?" she asked softly. "Why are you helping me when you could just turn me in? You could claim the reward or simply tell me to leave. Maybe I've been running for too long, hiding from the truth." His thumb brushed gently against a tear rolling down her cheek, the tender contact sending shivers of warmth between them. The space between them pulsed with an almost tangible electricity, a shared understanding forged in the crucible of their respective pasts. But just as the moment seemed to stretch into eternity, the harsh sound of tires crunching over gravel shattered their fragile reverie. Jace's eyes snapped toward the window. The black SUV that had haunted the edges of their lives was now unmistakably drawing nearer, its engine a menacing purr beneath the desert's vast sky. "They're here!" Elena breathed, terror threading through her voice like a splinter. Without hesitation, Jace checked his holster and gripped her hand firmly. "There's a cellar beneath the old barn," he instructed urgently. "I used to hide rescued horses there when rustlers threatened my land. Get down there and, no matter what you hear, stay absolutely silent." His tone left no room for argument. "Jace, don't," she protested, but he only tightened his grip. "Trust me," he insisted, his eyes burning with unwavering determination. As Elena slipped away into the shadowed recesses beneath the barn, Jace stepped out onto the creaking porch, one hand never straying far from his holstered gun. The SUV's doors swung open and two men emerged. Men in expensive suits marred by the relentless desert dust. The taller one, his smile predatory and unsettling, addressed him with a tone of false cordiality. "Mr. Callahan," he drawled, "we need to have a word about a missing bride." Without missing a beat, Jace's voice cut through the charged air. "This is private property, gentlemen." The taller man, whose name would later be known as Julian, produced a glossy photograph, a picture of Elena in her ruined wedding dress, and continued. "We're searching for this woman. Mr. Vesper is extremely concerned for his fiancée's safety." Jace's reply was dry and measured. "I haven't seen her, and if I do, I'll let you know. But don't expect any bride wandering across my cattle guard." The second man, younger and whose eyes shone with an unsettling coldness, stepped forward. "Mind if we search your property thoroughly?" he asked. Jace's stance shifted imperceptibly, his body radiating the silent promise of retribution. "I mind very much," he said coolly. "Unless you have a warrant." His words hung heavy in the still air, marking the end of their tense exchange. From her hidden refuge in the cellar, Elena's heart thundered in her chest as she pressed her hand against her mouth, straining to absorb every word from above. Julian, a man who had once known Jace as Detective Callahan during his former life on the force, remarked in a tone laden with both nostalgia and cynicism, "Ex-cop Detective Jace Callahan, you had quite the reputation before you retired. Word is you left the force after asking too many questions about certain business operations." A bitter smile tugged at Jace's lips. "I'm just a rancher now," he replied evenly, "and you're trespassing on my land." The conversation dwindled into a silence punctuated by the sound of retreating footsteps and the slam of car doors, the engine of the SUV grumbling as it drove off into the encroaching dusk. After what seemed like an eternity, Elena's hand trembled as she pressed against the cold wooden steps of the cellar. Jace's heavy boots soon appeared above, and with a soft, reassuring tone, he said, "They're gone, but mark my words, they'll be back." He helped her to her feet as she emerged, shaking from the ordeal, into the waning light of the late afternoon. "I'm so sorry, Jace," she murmured, her voice thick with remorse. "I've put you right in their crosshairs. I've been in far worse spots than this." Her eyes searched his, seeking forgiveness and understanding. Jace studied her for a long, silent moment before replying, "You remembered something else down there, didn't you?" His question was gentle, yet probing, and Elena, wrapping her arms around herself as if to hold in her scattered memories, nodded slowly. "When they mentioned your past, I remembered my mother," she confessed softly. "Before she died, before my stepfather married into money, we lived on a small farm in what used to be known as Granite Ridge. I used to help with the horses, before everything was remade into something unrecognizable." The shared reminiscence seemed to cast a brief, warm glow over the tension of the moment. "How could I ever forget that?" Jace said, his voice softening as his eyes reflected a long-forgotten tenderness. "Sometimes we bury the parts of ourselves that hurt too much to remember." A spark of hope ignited in Elena's eyes as she suddenly pleaded, Show me what I've forgotten." Whether it was the skills of handling horses or the tender memories of a simpler time, her voice carried a desperate longing to reclaim the person she had once been. Jace hesitated only a moment before nodding and gesturing toward the corrals beyond the ranch's worn fence. Inside the corral, there's a young mare with a shimmering golden coat. Her name is Sundance. He recalled how he'd found her, barely clinging to life in the vast desert wasteland just a month earlier, a victim of cruelty and neglect by a previous owner whose heart had long since turned cold. "She's stubborn as all get out," he added with a wry smile, "but there's a spark in her that refuses to be snuffed out." As Elena slowly approached the fence, her eyes alighting on Sundance, a quiet wonder replaced the despair that had so long weighed upon her. "She's beautiful," she murmured, extending her hand with a tentative grace. To Jace's astonishment, the mare inched closer, nostrils flaring as if drawn by an unspoken promise. "Hey there, sweet girl," Elena cooed softly. In that tender, transformative moment, a genuine smile blossomed on her face. The first real smile Jace had seen from her since that fateful night. It was as if, through the simple act of reaching out to Sundance, Elena had reawakened a piece of herself long lost to fear and pain. For the next hour, beneath the slowly setting sun that bathed the ranch in hues of amber and rose, Jace watched as Elena reconnected with the quiet strength of her past. Her movements grew surer, her touch more assured as she brushed through Sundance's flowing mane. "Your mother taught you well," Jace remarked softly, noting how the art of caring for a living creature could revive long-dormant memories of love, labor, and the beauty of simple life. "She believed in hard work and kindness," he added, the words resonating as a tribute to a bygone era. Elena's eyes glistened with bittersweet recollections. "After my mother died," she said, her voice catching on a memory, "my stepfather always said that horses were beneath us, that I should be refined, not a country girl." Her tone was laced with a mixture of defiance and regret, as if the words had been etched into her very soul. But as she continued to caress Sundance's velvety nose, A spark of self-assurance returned. "Now I see that those days are gone forever," she whispered, glancing up at Jace, as if searching for confirmation of her reborn identity. The golden light of the fading day caught both of them in its tender embrace, and in that moment, Jace stepped closer. "You are not defined by the ghosts of your past," he said, his voice imbued with quiet conviction. "You are the woman who escaped a killer's grasp, who fell only to rise again, with a grace that can tame even the wildest of horses." His hand gently cupped her cheek as their eyes met, a silent affirmation that, in each other, they had found the strength to reclaim their lost selves. Yet even as their burgeoning bond seemed to promise hope and renewal, a distant rumble of thunder shattered the fragile peace. "A storm is coming," Jace said abruptly, his voice laced with urgency. "We need to get inside before it worsens." Hand in hand, they hurried back toward the modest ranch house, the darkening sky a portent of the trials yet to come. Something in the air hinted that the forces aligned against them would not relent easily, and that their journey had only just begun. That night, as the tempest howled relentlessly outside and rain battered the roof with the fury of 1,000 memories, Jace and Elena found solace by the flickering light of a stone fireplace. Wrapped in the quiet intimacy of shared secrets, they exchanged pieces of their past lives. Jace recounted stories of his youth on the ranch, of a time when his heart had burned with the desire to make a difference. Stories of a young detective who had once dared to challenge the corruption that festered in high places. In turn, Elena offered fragmented recollections, her mother's contagious laugh echoing in a sunlit barn, the comforting aroma of hay mingled with the scent of wildflowers, and the slow, painful disintegration of her dreams under the weight of her stepfather's ambition. As the night deepened, the gravity of their situation pressed upon them like an unseen hand. "We can't stay here for long," Elena murmured, her eyes fixed on the dancing flames. "They'll come back, and next time they might not be satisfied with just a search." Jace squeezed her hand, his gaze steady and determined. "Tonight you're safe," he promised softly. "But tomorrow, we must be ready for whatever comes our way." Before the storm could claim the last remnants of the fading night, Elena's sleep was haunted by vivid dreams, a cascade of memories and premonitions. In her dreams, she found herself back in Damien Vesper's lavish, private suite at the Grand Marquess Casino, a place now distant in both time and memory. In that surreal vision, she prepared for the wedding she never truly desired, surrounded by crystal chandeliers and white roses that symbolized the suffocating constraints of a life not meant for her. "You look beautiful, darling," Damien's voice echoed, smooth as aged whiskey, yet laden with an undercurrent of menace. "Everything I've ever wanted is within my grasp." But before the dream could settle into comfort, a sharp echoing gunshot shattered the illusion. Elena awoke with a strangled cry on Jace's couch, a scream dying on her lips as the pre-dawn light crept into the room. Jace was there in an instant, his strong arms steadying her trembling shoulders. Hey, you're safe," he murmured, the warmth of his presence anchoring her to the present. But the nightmares were not so easily cast aside. "I remember everything now," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I remember Daniel Chen, the man Damien killed. Daniel Chen, a humble owner of a small downtown eatery, had once come to beg for more time to settle a debt." Elena's voice cracked as she recounted. "When Mr. Chen came pleading, Damien, drunk with anger over a missing shipment, shot him right there in his office. And then, after everything, he looked at me and smiled, as if taking a life were as trivial as unfastening his tie." Jace's jaw tightened as he absorbed her words, the rage simmering beneath his calm exterior threatening to break free. "What did he say to you?" he demanded softly. "Tell me everything." Elena's eyes brimmed with tears as she recounted Damien's chilling words. "Now you understand how our world works, my love. No weakness, no mercy. After the wedding, you'd be mine, trapped in a world with no escape." Her voice faltered as she recalled how she had fled that night, how she had taken to the road in a desperate bid for freedom. "I didn't even know where I was going," she admitted, her voice shaking with the weight of her memories. "I just drove. Away." Then, in a hushed, trembling tone, Elena added, "There's more. I heard them mention evidence. Evidence locked away in Damien's private safe. Ledgers, photos, names of corrupt officials. Mr. Chen wasn't his first victim, and my own stepfather. They were all part of his sick game." her hands clenched into tight fists as she recalled the betrayal. The knowledge that those who had once held power over her had twisted her fate. "I know what kind of monster Damien is," she said, her voice thick with despair, "but he has millions riding on this wedding. A debt he must pay by selling me into his world." At that agonizing moment, the quiet of the room was violently shattered by the staccato sound of gunfire. A sharp crack split the air, and before either could react, Jace lunged, tackling Alina off the couch as the window burst inward with a shower of shattered glass. They hit the floor hard, the chaos of splintered wood and screaming alarms consuming the space around them. "Crawl!" Jace barked urgently, pulling his gun as he scrambled toward the kitchen. "To the kitchen. Stay low." Amid the maelstrom of violent sounds and frantic footsteps, Alina scrambled, her heart pounding in her ears as more shots reverberated through the walls. Outside, the sound of multiple vehicles, engines growling in the pre-dawn darkness, signaled that their pursuers had arrived in force. With grim determination, Jace peered cautiously around the corner. "4 SUVs, he hissed, his voice tight with alarm. "At least 8 men. This is my fault. I'm so sorry, Elena," he gasped as her eyes filled with terror. In that desperate moment, he planted a fierce, apologetic kiss on her lips. A kiss meant to steal away her fear, even if only for a heartbeat. When he pulled back, his eyes burned with a determination born of survival. "No time for regret now," Jace said, his voice steely as he explained their only option. "There's a secret tunnel beneath the house, a passage my grandfather used during Prohibition when he smuggled contraband through the old mining caves. The entrance is hidden beneath the pantry floor. Elena, I need you to go there. I'll hold them off and buy you time." He pressed a set of keys into her hand. "This is my backup vehicle, hidden in the cave. Once you're through, head east, find shelter in Silver Hollow. I've got a friend waiting there who can help." His voice softened for a moment. "But know this, I won't leave you behind." Another volley of gunfire pounded the house as Jace shoved her toward the pantry. "Elena, listen to me," he pleaded, urgency lacing every word. The room filled with the cacophony of violence as bullets tore through the fragile sanctuary they had built. Amid the chaos, Elena's mind raced, torn between the need to escape and the instinct to remain by the one person who had shown her such compassion. Outside, the pre-dawn darkness was pierced by harsh beams of headlights sweeping across the house. Jace's heart pounded as he realized the full extent of their predicament. "Go, now!" he shouted, his voice barely audible over the din of approaching vehicles. With trembling resolve, Elena disappeared into the hidden passage, the metallic taste of fear mingling with the salty tang of tears on her lip. Inside, the house shook with each shot, each echo a grim reminder that their enemies were relentless. Jace remained behind, his figure a steadfast silhouette against the flickering light from the shattered window. Every moment counted, and as he pressed his back against the wall, he silently vowed to protect Alina with every ounce of his being, even if it meant confronting the dark forces that had upended their lives. In that instant, as the chaos raged on, the harsh realities of their worlds collided. The ruthless, calculated cruelty of Damien Vesper and his merciless cronies, and the fragile, resilient spirit of a woman who had lost everything but refused to surrender. The bitter taste of betrayal and the yearning for redemption intertwined, forging a bond between Jace and Elena that defied the cruelty of fate. Outside, the storm of violence and vengeance was far from over, but inside that battered house, amid the chaos and uncertainty, a fragile ember of hope had been ignited. With every shattered shard of glass and every thunderous crack of gunfire, Jace's determination solidified. He would protect Elena, uncover the truth behind the gruesome deeds of Damien Vesper, and fight to reclaim a future that had once seemed lost to both of them. In the echo of chaos and shattered glass, Elena's trembling voice cut through the dark, tense air. "What you saw, what you know." Her words were a solemn promise and a desperate plea rolled into one. Every secret, every glimpse of the horror unfolding in that fateful night held the power to dismantle Damien Vesper's empire, if only she could survive long enough to tell the tale. As if drawn by fate's relentless pull, Jace's hand reached up, tenderly cradling her cheek in the pale light. "I'll find you, I promise," he vowed, his tone merging the steely resolve of his former life as a dedicated officer with a warmth that belied the danger that lurked in every shadow. His eyes, dark and unwavering, held a promise that transcended the chaos, a promise that he would hunt down every threat until she was safe. The sound of footsteps crunching on broken glass jolted them from that fleeting intimacy. In a moment of raw emotion, Elena clutched at Jace's shirt, pulling him down for one last, desperate kiss. "Don't you dare die on me, cowboy," she pleaded, her voice laced with both hope and terror, as if the world depended on their union in that single moment. A small, bittersweet smile briefly softened Jace's hardened features. "Yes, ma'am," he murmured, his response carrying the weight of all the promises he had ever made and the battles he had fought. And then, as if swallowed by the shadows of his own haunted past, he melted away into the darkness of his home, an echo of the cop he once was, leaving behind only the lingering scent of resolve and unspoken goodbyes. Down in the hidden recesses of the old ranch house, Elena found herself alone with her pounding heart as she yanked up the secret trapdoor and descended into the stifling darkness below. The tunnel, carved out years ago by desperate hands, swallowed her whole as if it were a portal to another world. Every echo of gunfire above served as a grim metronome to the rhythm of her flight. The last thing she heard, before the tunnel's depths enveloped her, was Jace's calm, measured voice, carrying a wry welcome. "Welcome to my ranch, boys. Hope you're ready for some real country hospitality." His words, laced with a dangerous mixture of humor and menace, resonated deep within her as she plunged into the unknown. Inside the tunnel, the battle above seemed to fade into a distant memory, replaced by the relentless pounding of her own heart. With one hand trailing along the rough-hewn wall and the other clutching the set of keys Jace had given her, Elena ran through the dim passageway. The sounds of violence and pursuit were muffled by the thick walls, yet each step she took was a reminder of the peril that still lay ahead. Every instinct in her body screamed to turn back, to return to the safety of Jace's side. But the grim reality was clear. Only she held the key to bringing down Damien Vesper and his ruthless regime. Her survival was paramount, not just for herself, but for all the innocent lives that hung in the balance. At last, the tunnel widened into a larger cavern where the faint glow of pre-dawn light seeped through crevices in the ancient rock face. There, almost hidden beneath a dusty, tattered tarp, sat an old Jeep Wrangler. Its rugged form, a relic from days when survival depended on resourcefulness and grit, seemed almost like a guardian in that bleak expanse. Elena's hands shook uncontrollably as she pulled away the cover, revealing the battered vehicle that had, until now, been nothing more than a forgotten artifact. "Please, start," she whispered, her plea almost inaudible as she turned the key in the ignition. With a roar that reverberated off the cave walls, the engine came to life, a defiant declaration of hope amid the encroaching darkness. Clambering into the driver's seat, Elena soon discovered that Jace had not left any detail to chance. The Jeep was equipped with every modification necessary for a high-speed escape across treacherous terrain. Following a set of hidden instructions etched into her memory, she located the secret exit that Jace had mentioned, a narrow gap in the rock face, cunningly concealed by the gnarled desert scrub. As she emerged onto a rough, wind-swept trail, the night was suddenly ripped apart by a massive explosion. Orange flames erupted in the distance, lighting up the horizon where Jace's beloved ranch house once stood. A stark, fiery reminder of the price that was being exacted for defiance. "No!" A piercing scream tore from her throat. In that moment, Elena's instinct urged her to turn back, to search for any sign of Jace amidst the devastation. But another explosion soon followed, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of more vehicles closing in. Swallowing her fear, she slammed her foot on the accelerator. The Jeep bounded over the rugged desert terrain with an agility that belied its age, hurtling forward as the first rays of dawn painted the sky in shades of deep blood. In the rearview mirror, she caught sight of headlights. First one set, then two, and soon a relentless convoy. Damien's men had caught her trail. Come on," Elena urged, her voice raw with desperation as she swerved around a dense cluster of twisted Joshua trees. The vehicle's modifications, clearly designed for such pursuits, allowed her to navigate the rocky passages with precision. A sharp metallic sound, the ping of a bullet off her side mirror, drew her attention. In a heartbeat, she remembered Jace's parting words about the backup gun stashed in the glove compartment. With trembling fingers, she yanked it open. Inside, she found not only a small pistol, but also a satellite phone and a sealed envelope bearing her name. A final message from Jace that now would have to wait. There was no time for contemplation. Desperation lent strength to her actions. Gripping the satellite phone, she punched in the single number she could recall, the number of Rosa, her loyal old housekeeper and one of the few remnants of her former life she still trusted with her life. "Hello?" came the groggy voice of Rosa, still half asleep but instantly alert to the urgency in Elena's tone. "Rosa, it's Elena. Listen carefully," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos raging around her. "I need you to go to Damien Vesper's office at the casino. In his private safe behind the Remington painting, there's evidence, ledgers, photos, that could bring him down. There's a bullet hole in his back window, too. Please, use the combination. It's my mother's birthday." Elena's voice wavered with a mix of determination and fear as she continued. "Get those records to the FBI, Rosa. And if you see Jace Callahan, tell him I love him." Before she could finish, the line crackled and the phone exploded in her hand, a harsh reminder that time was slipping away. With the fragments of the shattered phone discarded, Elena forced herself to focus on the road ahead. The Jeep roared onward as she navigated through increasingly treacherous desert terrain, its every bump and jolt a testament to the fury of the wilderness. The rugged foothills provided both refuge and challenge, as her pursuers, armed with more powerful vehicles, closed in. Yet the Jeep's nimble handling allowed her to thread through narrow gaps and precipitous rock formations, evading capture by the narrowest of margins. At one heart-stopping moment, one SUV miscalculated a sharp turn and flipped spectacularly in her mirror, a chaotic tumble that offered her a precious few seconds of reprieve. But as the dust settled, two vehicles still remained, and they were gaining. The rising sun cast a fiery glow over the desert, and in that incandescent light, Elena's worst fears materialized. The front tire of the Jeep struck a rock with brutal force, sending the vehicle skidding sideways. In a desperate battle for control, she fought the steering wheel as the Jeep slammed violently against a massive boulder. Steam hissing from the crumpled hood. With no time to lose, she snatched up Jace's gun from its resting place and bolted from the wreckage, narrowly avoiding a hail of bullets that rained down upon the doomed vehicle. Injured but resolute, Elena scrambled up the rocky slope, using boulders as cover. Amid the clamor of violence, a voice cut through the chaos. A rough, commanding tone that sent shivers down her spine. "Give it up, Miss Winters," came the taunting call from Vincent, one of Damien Vesper's relentless henchmen. "Mr. Vesper just wants to talk." His words dripped with a false cordiality that masked a sinister threat. "About what? About Daniel Chen? About all the others you've seen killed?" Elena shouted back, her voice echoing against the unforgiving cliffs. Her retort was immediately met with another burst of gunfire, a grim punctuation to her defiance. Counting the shots as Jace had taught her in the scarce moments they'd shared, Elena waited for the lull in the gunfire. In that brief pause, she sprinted for a more secure hiding spot. A stray bullet tore through the air, catching her shoulder and sending her spinning violently. Agony exploded through her arm, yet she refused to yield. Every ounce of her battered strength propelled her upward, each step a defiant challenge to fate. The rocky slope, though perilously steep, offered a maze of crevices and ledges, a natural fortress against the onslaught. Then, as if destiny had guided her, she saw it. A narrow crevice in the rock face, almost invisible unless one was in close proximity. It was a slot canyon, the kind she'd once read about in travel guides to the desert's secret wonders. With no other option, she dove into the narrow gap as shots continued to kick up a cloud of dust around her. The crevice was scarcely wide enough to accommodate her, and as she squeezed through, she could hear Vincent bellowing in frustration, his voice echoing off the canyon walls. "She's trapped!" he roared to his men. "Cover both ends. She'll come out eventually." Pressing herself against the cool rock, Elena struggled to steady her ragged breathing. Her shoulder throbbed fiercely beneath her tattered sleeve, a painful reminder of the night's relentless assault. Above her, a thin strip of sky shone through between the towering walls of the canyon, a fragile window to freedom. In her pocket, the sealed envelope from Jace's glove compartment crinkled softly. With trembling fingers, she retrieved it and broke the seal, unfolding the note with a mix of hope and dread. The message was clear and direct. Elena, if you're reading this, we got separated. There's a GPS tracker hidden in the Jeep's console. Damien's men are using it to follow you, but what they don't know is that I've mapped the entire network of slot canyons. Head north, through the Narrows, count 3 major bends, and after the third, look for a cavern opening on your right marked with 3 white stones. That's where I've hidden the motorcycle keys, taped under the seat. And Elena, I meant what I said. I find you. Don't you dare die on me. With a shaky exhale, Elena folded the note carefully, whispering back, I meant what I said, too. Clutching the note close, she pushed herself off the rock wall and began navigating the twisting, narrow passageways of the canyon. Each bend, she counted, every twist in the rocky passage was a step further away from the relentless predators and closer to the promise of safety. Overhead, the hunter's moon slowly yielded to the first light of morning, while in the distance the golden spires of the Vesper Casino pierced the Las Ventrian skyline like a crown of thorns. A haunting reminder of the power and corruption she was determined to expose. Meanwhile, far from the desert's wrath, Rosa, disguised in the unassuming uniform of a long-serving housekeeper, pushed her cleaning cart through the labyrinthine corridors of the Vesper Casino. The morning shift was just beginning, and every second was a battle against time. With her heart pounding like a war drum, she maneuvered past armed guards posted outside Damien Vesper's opulent office. Just another room to clean, she muttered under her breath, though she knew the stakes were far higher than routine. For 15 long years, Rosa had safeguarded secrets, and now she clutched the master key, a tool of her trade that had protected more than just a building. Today, that key would open the door to justice. Nearly 200 miles away, Elena's flight continued on a different set of wheels. Now she was astride a motorcycle backstretch vehicle, its engine purring softly as it navigated the pre-dawn chill of Utah's back roads. Every bump in the rough, unforgiving terrain sent a jolt of pain through her wounded shoulder, yet she pressed onward. The bike, lightweight and agile, was a testament to Jace's foresight. Its modified plates and ample fuel supply symbolized the silent promise that he was still watching over her. In quiet moments, between the rush of the open road, she wondered if Jace had survived the chaos at the ranch. Rumors and scattered news reports at gas stations had mentioned disturbances at a private homestead near Red Mesa Valley, but nothing had confirmed the fate of the man she now clung to in memory. As the sun finally crested the rugged mountains, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Elena arrived at her next refuge, a modest auto repair shop in Cedar City known as Sullivan's. The hand-painted sign, faded but still legible, beckoned her inside. Parking the motorcycle in the back as instructed, she cautiously approached the side door. A weathered man in his 60s whose eyes held the wisdom of 1,000 untold stories opened the door before she could knock. "You must be the girl Jace called about," he said, his voice gentle yet measured as he took in her dirt-streaked appearance and the bandage that marred her shoulder. "I'm Hank Sullivan. Come on in before someone sees you." His offer of sanctuary was a rare beacon of kindness in a world gone mad. Back in Las Ventrian, amidst the chaotic corridors of the Vesper Casino, Jace moved like a ghost through the underground parking garage. Disguised in a borrowed security guard uniform that strained slightly across his broad shoulders, his bruised face spoke volumes of the brutal encounter at the ranch. No one paid much heed to an injured security staff member, an advantage he intended to exploit. Having escaped the chaos by navigating the very tunnel system that Elena now traversed, Jace had already dispatched 3 of Vesper's men, their absence a silent testament to his skill. With a deep, steadying breath, he pressed on, aware that every moment was a precarious dance on the edge of discovery. In a carefully orchestrated sequence of events, Jace arrived on the executive floor of the casino. With a nod to the real security guard stationed there, a man whose trust he could ill afford to betray, Jace flashed his forged ID with practiced ease. But as he passed through the elevator's narrow confines, another guard eyed him suspiciously. In a swift, silent motion, Jace's fist connected with the man's jaw, knocking him unconscious before dragging him into a supply closet. "Sorry, pal," he murmured with a grim smile. "Can't risk you raising the alarm." Meanwhile, in Cedar City, Elena sat in the cramped yet welcoming office of Hank Sullivan, cradling a cup of Jace-warm coffee as the old mechanic made urgent phone calls. "Jace and I served together," Hank explained during a brief pause between calls, his tone nostalgic yet laced with concern. He was with the military police before joining the force. He's saved my bacon more times than I can count. Elena's eyes, though filled with worry, held a spark of hope. Is he? She began hesitantly, but Hank's kindly expression stopped her. He's alive. But that's all I can tell you right now. The less you know about his current location, the safer both of you are. His reassurance, though vague, was enough to kindle the flame of determination within her. Hank soon handed Alina a fresh burner phone. Now, let's get you to your actual safe house, he said, his voice firm yet caring. I've got a friend with a ranch just over the Colorado border. In the chaos of the casino evacuation, Rosa managed to secure some vital evidence. Your friend Rosa just cleared the first hurdle. Alina's mind flashed back to Rosa's trembling hands as she had, in a moment of quiet bravery, closed Damien Vesper's safe. The stolen ledgers and incriminating photos were now hidden among bags of trash on her cleaning cart, evidence that could topple an empire if delivered to the right hands. As Hank continued to coordinate the next phase of their plan, Elena paced anxiously in his cluttered office. I should be there, she whispered to herself. I should be helping them. Hank placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You are helping, by staying alive and ready to testify, he assured her. Glancing at a bank of old security monitors that showed various angles of his shop, Hank added, We've got company already. The black SUV's rolling past for the third time. They've found me. No, they've found exactly what Jace wanted them to find. His calm demeanor in the face of danger provided a brief, stabilizing anchor in the storm of uncertainty. Outside, the relentless pursuit continued. The chase, as it unfolded with cinematic precision, was mirrored in the tense, whispered conversations in the hidden corridors of the casino and the rugged trails of the desert. As Rosa, still in her housekeeper's uniform, navigated the service entrance with her cart, her heart pounded so fiercely she was sure everyone could hear it. Her determination was unwavering, even as Damien Vesper's imposing figure loomed in the doorway of his office. Leaving so soon? His voice was smooth, but laced with an undercurrent of menace that made her blood run cold. In that moment, the lights in the office flickered and went out, plunging everything into darkness. Emergency alarms wailed through the casino as Jace's virus scrambled the security systems, buying them precious minutes. In Hank's office, Elena sipped her coffee slowly, each sip a bitter reminder of the cost of survival. She knew that every second away from danger was a second gained, yet her heart ached with the loss of the man who had risked everything for her. The weight of the coming confrontation, the potential for further betrayal and bloodshed, pressed down on her like the unforgiving desert sun. And as the first light of a new day crept over the horizon, she resolved with every fiber of her being that she would see this fight through, no matter the cost. Beneath the din of shattered glass and frantic footsteps, Rosa moved like a wraith through the chaos of Mirage City's grand casino. Disguised as one of the countless members of the cleaning staff, a ghost among the throng in an emergency evacuation, she made her way silently through dim corridors and over slick floors. No one spared her a glance, and in that anonymity lay her salvation. Clutched tightly in her hand was a battered evidence file that she had just secured from a secret compartment ingeniously installed by Jace the previous night. With trembling fingers, she quickly transferred the vital documents and digital media into the hidden space of her battered sedan, parked discreetly at the edge of the service area. Only once she was alone, safely behind the tinted glass of her car, did Rosa dare to exhale a long-held breath. Her heart still pounded with the urgency of her covert mission when her phone buzzed, a single text message from an unknown number. The message read simply, "Package ready for pickup, 1 hour, original location." Without wasting a moment, Rosa started her car and merged into the stream of vehicles hastily leaving the casino. In her rearview mirror, a vision of fury materialized. Damien Vesper, the imperious magnate whose presence had haunted her every step, emerged onto the casino steps. His face, carved with anger and determination, bore the unmistakable marks of a man scorned by failure, as his security team fumbled to pinpoint the origin of the digital breach that had crippled their high-tech defenses. Elsewhere, Elena pressed herself against the shadowy confines of a back exit from Hank Sullivan's modest auto repair shop, now renamed Ridgeview Garage. moving silently with practiced caution. As she neared a battered pickup truck parked inconspicuously in a secluded lot, her voice barely rose above a whisper. "Will you tell him something for me?" she asked, her thoughts straying to Jace's once peaceful ranch, now reduced to smoldering ruins by the fire of retribution. Her mind was a tempest of guilt and longing. She wished desperately that he could know how deeply she felt for the sacrifices he had made. But before her words could fully form, Hank interjected in a gentle yet firm tone. "Tell him yourself when this is over." He paused, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "Jace Callahan's the most stubborn man I know. If he said he'd find you, then that's exactly what he'll do." As Ridgeview Garage's old truck rumbled away from Cedar City, a new name for a safe haven away from the chaos, Alina gazed out at the endless, undulating desert. The barren landscape rolled past in waves of golden sand and scarlet rock, a constant reminder of the harsh beauty that had borne witness to so much suffering and sacrifice. Somewhere out there, she believed, the man she had come to love was risking everything to dismantle the monstrous empire of Damien Vesper. And even though fate had conspired to tear them apart, she clutched tightly to the hope that, beyond the endless trials and separation, their paths would converge once more. In her pocket, she pressed an envelope. Jace's parting message, imbued with his promise and determination, against her heart. "I'll find you," it read, and with that she murmured to the desert wind, "You better." High above in the imposing penthouse suite of Vesper Casino, which offered a breathtaking panorama of the glittering neon sprawl of Mirage City, Damien Vesper was anything but entranced by the spectacle outside his floor-to-ceiling windows. His eyes, cold and calculating, were fixed on the descending sun as it melted into the distant mountain silhouettes, casting long, ominous shadows across the cityscape. Standing beside him, his ever-faithful lieutenant, Vincent, delivered the latest report in a measured tone. "The FBI is sniffing around. They're asking for access to our financial records, and someone leaked information about Daniel Chen's disappearance." Damien's reflection in the glass smirked darkly. "And they'll find everything in perfect order, won't they?" he mused icily. "Yes, sir," Vincent replied, though his voice betrayed a trace of discomfort. "But we still haven't located the contents of your safe, or the girl." A spark of malicious delight flashed in Damien's eyes as he lifted a crystal tumbler filled with aged scotch, swirling the amber liquid thoughtfully. "Oh, but we will," he declared, his tone a mixture of arrogance and vindictiveness. "You see, Elena is not as clever as she believes. Nor are any of them." With a casual press of a button on his mahogany desk, a hidden panel slid open, revealing an array of security monitors that captured every angle of his domain. "Our little bride has friends after all," the former Detective Callahan and her loyal housekeeper Rosa. "They fancy themselves so careful, moving their precious evidence about, setting up their little trap," he chuckled darkly. "But what they don't know is that I want them to succeed right up until the moment I crush them all." Hidden in the labyrinthine service tunnels of the casino, Jace crouched in the darkness, his ears attuned to every whispered secret leaking through the bug he had planted during the earlier breach. Every word of Damien's monologue confirmed his worst suspicions. Damien was orchestrating his own intricate game, a cat-and-mouse pursuit in which every move was a calculated risk. "Did you get all that?" Jace whispered urgently into his radio. The reply came in a crackling voice. "FBI Special Agent Jillian Chen, every word. My brother trusted Vesper, invested his life savings in that casino, and Vesper killed him for it. We'll get justice for Daniel, Jace, but we have to play this smart. Damien's expecting a trap, so we'll give him one. Just not the one he's anticipating." Over 200 miles away, in the humble living room of a small ranch house just across the Crimson Divide, Elena sat alone, the morning light filtering through threadbare curtains. The property belonged to Mabel, the sister of Hank Sullivan, a retired nurse whose gentle hands had mended Elena's wounded shoulder without a single word of reproach. "Your man's got a good head on his shoulders," Mabel said warmly, as she brought Elena a steaming cup of tea. "Hank says the evidence is secure and the FBI is on the move. You just need to stay put one more day." Elena stared into her tea, her thoughts heavy with conflicting emotions. "It feels so wrong hiding while others risk their lives," she confessed softly, her voice trembling with both anger and sorrow. "Sometimes, The hardest part of love is trusting the other person to fight their own battles. Mabel sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on her arm. You've done your part, you escaped, you survived, you got the truth out there. Now let Jace do what he does best. Just then, the shrill ring of a telephone shattered the fragile calm. It wasn't the burner phone that Jace had given her, but the old landline, its tone urgent and foreboding. Mabel answered, her face shifting as she listened to the voice on the other end. "It's for you," she said, extending the receiver with a tremor in her hand. Elena took the phone, her heart pounding in her ears. "Rosa, are you safe?" she asked, her voice laced with dread. "Yes, mi amor," came the tearful reply. "What do you need to know?" Damien was expecting this. He has cameras everywhere. He knows about the FBI. Elena's blood turned cold as Rosa continued. "Jace is walking into a trap, and I tried to warn him, but he's gone dark. Elena, what Damien really wants now isn't just to silence you. He wants revenge. He plans to kill everyone who has helped you and force you to watch." The line went silent for a heart-stopping moment. Then Mabel's distant call echoed through the phone, as the sound of shattering porcelain punctuated the air. The cup of tea slipped from Elena's trembling hand, crashing to the floor in a cascade of broken ceramic shards. In that split second, every flicker of fear and despair transformed into a blazing determination. "I can't hide any longer," she declared firmly, "not while the people I love are in danger." Mabel's eyes softened with maternal concern. "I'll get my truck. It's got a full tank, and there's a shotgun stashed under the seat. Old ranch rules, you know." Elena gathered her hanket and stepped away from the shattered remains of her tea, her resolve crystallizing into an unyielding promise. "Thank you for everything," she whispered, her voice gaining strength. "Just promise me one thing, Mabel," she added as she headed for the door. "When you face that bastard, make him regret ever thinking he could own you." Meanwhile, high in the glitzy private poker room of Vesper Casino, a room that had once been the very heart of Damien Vesper's empire, a tense game of high-stakes cards was unfolding. Across the green baize table, Jace Callahan sat opposite Damien, $5 million in chips stacked meticulously between them. The private game had been arranged at Damien's behest, a facade for their clandestine negotiation. "You know what your mistake was, detective," Damien sneered, his voice a silky blend of condescension and menace. "You thought this was about love, about protecting the fair maiden from the monster, but it was never about that. It was about power, about showing everyone what happens when they defy me." Jace's eyes burned with quiet fury as he pushed his chips forward with deliberate calm. "Your mistake was thinking you could break her," he replied steadily. "Elena is stronger than you'll ever comprehend." In a swift motion, Damien matched his bet, his icy smile never wavering. "We'll see about that," he murmured, glancing at his watch. "Right about now, my men should be reaching the safe house where you hid her. And after they're done, there won't be anything left of that little ranch but ashes. Again." Jace maintained a poker face, though his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He knew he had to end this deadly game before the casino's emergency lights plunged the room into chaos. Suddenly, as if on cue, the lights flickered ominously and the table was left abandoned. Outside, sirens began to wail, signaling that chaos had truly erupted within the casino's hallowed halls. In an instant, gunfire erupted from Damien's men, sending Jace diving behind an overturned table as bullets shattered the tense silence. Amid the bedlam, he caught a glimpse of Damien slipping silently through a hidden door behind an ornate decorative panel. "Agent Chen," Jace hissed urgently into his concealed radio, "Vesper is heading for his escape route. South stairwell." The response crackled back, but before further instructions could be exchanged, a burst of gunfire silenced his words, forcing him deeper into the cover. Across the room, Vincent emerged with 3 other armed henchmen, their weapons leveled squarely at Jace's position. "Give it up, Callahan!" Vincent taunted, his voice dripping with cruelty. "There's no way out this time." A thunderous shotgun blast roared through the room, and Vincent spun around in shock as the door burst open. There, framed in the doorway, stood Elena, transformed from the fragile runaway bride into a resolute, avenging angel. Her borrowed ranch clothes had been replaced by a sleek, jet-black ensemble that allowed her to merge seamlessly with the casino's shadows. With a determined glare and a shotgun firmly braced against her shoulder, she commanded, "Get away from him." Seizing the moment, Jace fired precise, calculated shots that took out two of Damien's men, forcing Vincent and his remaining cronies to dive for cover. As the chaos unfurled, Elena advanced into the fray, her shotgun roaring in tandem with Jace's rapid gunfire. "I thought I told you to stay put, Jace," he called out, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth despite the danger. "You're not the only one who can make plans." With practiced precision, Elena maneuvered to cover, her eyes darting to the array of security cameras that Damien had so arrogantly boasted about. "The casino's rigged to record everything," she declared with cool determination. "They know about the FBI, about the evidence, all of it." Jace's voice resonated from his cover. "We know. But what he doesn't know is that we anticipated every move." A sudden tension filled the room as Elena produced a small flash drive from her pocket, a final trump card. "Rosa didn't just take the evidence," she explained, her voice steady despite the chaos. "She found something even better, the encryption key to his personal server. Every illicit transaction, every murder, every bribe, everything is recorded on it." A slow, mocking clap echoed across the room as Damien Vesper emerged once more from the shadows, his elegant suit immaculate despite the unfolding turmoil. With deliberate grace, he raised a pistol and aimed it squarely at Elena's head. "I must admit, my dear," he purred with venomous charm, "you have exceeded all my expectations. The frightened little girl I planned to marry has transformed into quite the warrior." His eyes glinted coldly as he continued, "But now, it's time to end this game." Elena's gaze hardened and she replied, "It's over, Damien. The FBI has your records. They know about Daniel Chin, about all the others. Your copies are mere fakes. The real evidence is in my hands." Her words were steady, echoing the finality of a battle won. "Don't give it to you," Jace warned, his voice low and urgent. "Oh, she will," Damien retorted with a sinister smile, "because if she doesn't, my men outside will execute Rosa." His tone was icy, leaving no room for negotiation. "They'll burn down Hank Sullivan's sister's ranch. They'll destroy everyone who helped you, one by one, starting with your precious cowboy here." Elena's grip on the flash drive tightened, her knuckles whitening with defiant resolve. "You're wrong about one thing, Damien," she declared, her voice rising above the clamor. "I'm not scared anymore." In one swift, defiant motion, she hurled the flash drive high into the air. Time appeared to slow as Damien's cold eyes tracked its flight, his gun beginning to move to intercept. But in that suspended moment, Jace fired with deadly precision, disarming Damien by knocking the weapon from his grasp. Through a shattered skylight above, FBI tactical agents descended like shimmering lines of spider silk, their coordinated assault the final blow to Damien's crumbling regime. Amid the chaos, Elena lunged forward, tackling Damien as he fumbled for a backup weapon. In the ensuing melee, every ounce of her fury and all the pain of her past coalesced into one perfect, resounding right hook that sent the Casino King sprawling. "That's for Daniel Chen," she spat bitterly, her voice echoing with grief and vengeance, "and for every life you've ruined." As FBI agents swarmed in, securing Damien and his remaining men, Agent Chen carefully retrieved the flash drive, nodding at Elena with a silent, respectful acknowledgement. Standing amid the turmoil, Elena's voice trembled with both relief and sorrow. "Daniel was my brother," she murmured, a final declaration of justice and loss. As Damien was led away in handcuffs, his once mighty empire collapsing around him, Elena turned slowly to Jace. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they came together like magnets. Two storm-tossed souls reunited on the shattered edge of fate. "I thought I told you to stay safe," Jace murmured softly, his breath warm against her ear. "And I thought I told you not to die on me." Elena pulled back just enough to meet his gaze, her eyes alight with a fierce determination that had been forged in the crucible of their shared trials. "I'm done letting other people fight my battles," she declared, her voice rising with a newfound strength. "I'm done letting fear rule my life." Jace's gentle hand brushed a tender thumb across her cheek. "Because I'm done letting you face anything alone," he whispered, his words a promise of unwavering partnership. Around them, the casino's emergency lights flickered and steadied, casting long shadows that gradually gave way to the first radiant beams of dawn. Outside, FBI agents secured the scene, and through the expansive windows, The morning sun painted Mirage City's skyline in hues of gold and crimson. "Ready to get out of here?" Jace asked softly, a hopeful smile tugging at his lips. Elena paused for a heartbeat, her eyes lingering on the tumultuous scene behind them, and then, with a determined nod, she replied, "I'm ready." Her fingers intertwined with his as twilight deepened around them, their touch a silent promise of shared destiny. "Take me home, cowboy," she whispered, her voice soft yet resolute against the cool desert breeze. "And where's that?" he replied, his tone laced with gentle humor. With a radiant smile that rivaled the brilliance of the desert sun, she answered, "Wherever we're together." 1 year later, as the fiery orb of the setting sun bathed the sky in hues of rose and gold, Elena stood on the weathered porch of the newly rebuilt Callahan homestead, a sanctuary reborn from the ashes of past turmoil. The landscape, though forever wild and untamed, had softened around the edges, its eternal spirit now mingling with the hope of new beginnings. The desert, as constant and relentless as ever, bore witness to their journey, a journey of loss, courage, and rediscovered love. Jace joined her at the railing, his arms encircling her waist as if to hold together every fragment of their shared history. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked quietly, his eyes reflecting the memories of that stormy night when fate had first entwined their lives. Elena leaned into his steady embrace, her voice tender as she confessed, "I was so lost then, running from a life that never truly belonged to me. And now?" In the soft light of the coming dusk, Elena turned in his arms, taking in the familiar sight of him clad in his best Western shirt and worn jeans, a look that never failed to make her heart flutter even after all this time. "Now? I know exactly who I am and where I belong," she murmured, her eyes shimmering with the certainty of self-discovery. The gentle nickering of horses drew their attention toward the newly constructed stables, a testament to their shared dream. Once a modest homestead, the property had transformed into the Callahan Equine Sanctuary, a haven not only for rescued horses, but for wounded souls seeking solace. The sanctuary, born partly from the redistributed assets of Damien Vesper's seized empire and nurtured by their unwavering vision, now thrived as a beacon of hope and healing. "Rosa's bringing another group of students tomorrow," Elena remarked, her gaze following the graceful trot of a rescued Palomino mare across the expansive paddock. "Can you believe these kids have never seen a horse up close before?" Jace's teasing reply, "Just like some city girl I once knew," elicited a playful swat from Elena. In that moment, the glint of sunlight on her wrist caught his eye, no longer the ostentatious diamond bracelet of her past life, but a simple silver band etched with the story of their journey together. For Elena, home was not a place but a feeling, a sanctuary where love bloomed in the arid vastness of the desert. Inside the homestead, photographs on the mantel and walls chronicled the transformative past year. One image captured the triumphant conviction of Damien Vesper in a courtroom. Another showed Agent Jillian Chen standing proudly outside the courthouse. There was Rosa, now promoted to director of the Youth Outreach Program, and Hank alongside Mabel Sullivan, both beaming at the grand opening of the sanctuary. Dominating the gallery was a tender wedding photograph. Elena in a flowing sundress and Jace in his finest Western attire, their vows exchanged beneath a boundless desert sky that had witnessed the rebirth of their lives. "Any regrets?" Jace asked softly, his tone teasing as he broke the quiet reverie. "Trading penthouses for paddocks?" Elena's answer was interrupted by the arrival of their latest sanctuary resident, a sleek ebony Mustang rescued from the clutches of ruthless illegal traders. The spirited horse pranced nervously in its round pen, while Caleb, a troubled teenager whose own healing had been nurtured by the horses, worked patiently to win its trust. "Look at that," Elena murmured, her voice tinged with wonder and pride. A few months ago, Caleb could barely make eye contact with anyone. Now he's teaching a wild horse to trust again. "That's what this place is all about," Jace said, a warm smile spreading across his face as he watched the scene unfold. Second chances, new beginnings, love healing what was broken. "You sound like you're reciting a romance novel," Jace teased gently. Slyly, Elena retorted, "Says the tough cowboy who once proposed to me by hiding the ring in the mane of our rescue sunrise?" Her eyes sparkled with affection and mischief as she recalled that audacious act, a symbol of how far they'd both come since that harrowing night when she'd fled her old life, broken and afraid. Their thoughts lingered on the past even as they celebrated the present. The desert wind carried the aromatic scent of sage and freedom, mingling with memories of that fateful storm when everything had changed. In that desperate moment, Elena had felt utterly lost, clinging to the hope of survival. Now, enveloped by the warmth of love and the resilience of the human spirit, she realized that sometimes one must lose everything to discover the truth of who they are meant to be. "I love you, cowboy," she whispered, her voice soft, yet imbued with newfound strength. Jace's response came in the form of a tender kiss that still made her knees weak, a kiss that tasted of promises kept and adventures yet to come. As they slowly parted, the first stars began to twinkle above, heralding the onset of a serene night in the desert. "My dear friends," a calm, measured voice began to speak, echoing across the vast expanse of the night sky. "As we close this tale of lost souls finding their way home, I hope it has touched your heart as deeply as it has mine. This story, a tapestry of courage, redemption, and the healing power of love, reminds us that our darkest moments can lead us to our brightest futures." The narrator's voice carried over the desert, inviting all who listened to reflect on the journey from the glittering neon lights of Neon Vista to the star-studded skies of the arid mesa. "Which moment resonated with you the most?" the narrator continued, inviting interaction. Was it the stormy night when a desperate bride found refuge? The dramatic showdown at the casino where justice and vengeance clashed? Or perhaps this peaceful ending, where love finally blooms in the quiet vastness of the desert? Share your thoughts, and let us know what kind of love story you'd like to hear next. Until our next adventure in love, remember, sometimes the longest, most winding road leads us exactly where we were always meant to be. Later that night, as the last light of day faded into a gentle dusk, Elena stood with Jace once more on the porch of their homestead. The cool evening air caressed them as they held hands, their hearts beating in unison with the timeless rhythm of the desert. "Take me home, cowboy," she repeated softly, her voice echoing the promise of their first embrace. "I belong with you, wherever that may be." Jace's eyes shone with the quiet certainty of a man who had fought through the storm and emerged Damianius. "Home isn't a place," he said, "it's wherever we are together." And in that simple truth lay the culmination of their journey. A journey marked by pain, sacrifice, and ultimately, the transformative power of love. Together, they stepped inside their new life, a life built on the ruins of the old, where every sunrise brought hope and every sunset whispered of endless possibilities. The desert, eternal and indifferent, bore witness to their triumph. Its vast, unyielding expanse had once mirrored the emptiness of a broken soul, but now it shimmered with the light of a love that had weathered every storm. As the evening deepened, the homestead glowed softly under the watchful gaze of the stars. In the distance, the gentle hum of the sanctuary's stables blended with the rustle of wind through the sagebrush. In that serene moment, Elena and Jace knew that despite the battles they had fought and the sacrifices made, they had discovered something far more precious than material wealth. A home built on trust, passion, and an unbreakable bond. "Penny for your thoughts," Jace asked again, as they settled into the quiet intimacy of their living room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the photographs that told their story. Elena smiled wistfully. "I remember being so lost, running from a past that was never truly mine. And now, I'm certain of who I am and where I belong." The sound of horses softly nickering outside reminded them of the sanctuary that had given them new purpose. Their shared vision, a haven for both rescued horses and wounded souls, had come to life, symbolizing second chances and the possibility of renewal. It was a testament to the fact that even in the harshest landscapes, love and determination could forge something beautiful. With a final, lingering look at the starlit sky, Elena wrapped her arms around Jace. "I love you, cowboy," she whispered once more, her voice full of hope and unyielding resolve. Jace's response, a warm, lingering kiss, spoke volumes of promises kept and a future brimming with possibilities. And as they stood together on that tranquil porch, with the desert stretching endlessly before them, they knew that their journey had only just begun. Amid the scorched sands and raging storms, two strangers found each other, not just to escape their pasts, but to rediscover who they truly were. From a runaway bride and a lone cowboy, they carved out a story of redemption, of justice, and of a love fierce enough to take down an empire. Sometimes, new beginnings don't come wrapped in safety, but in courage. And sometimes, love isn't born from perfection, but from the scars we choose to heal together. What about you? Do you believe that love can heal even the deepest wounds? Let us know in the comments. Which moment from this story moved you the most? What kind of love story would you like us to tell next? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic stories that stay with you long after the credits roll. Until our next journey, where love always finds its way home.